if you don't use it, you lose it? Welcome into the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking movies. I'm your host, the Mayor Jeff Hornacek. This is episode 239. It is March Madness, bitches. By the time you're listening to this, your bracket's probably already busted, but that's okay, because tonight there's a much, much more important tournament happening that involves movies that we're going to discuss on the Bro Force Squad podcast. Before we do that, though, let's go around the panel and meet my fellow bros. We begin with our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli. Ronnie, on a scale of 1 to Vladimir Putin, how corrupt is the NCAA, whose own incompetence has actually helped the ratings for our annual Movie Madness tournaments when you compare it to the NCAA tournament?
I honestly think that's an insult to Vladimir Putin to be compared to the NCAA. So apologies to Vladimir Putin. We didn't mean to come at you. Unfair comparison. NCAA is not even close on that.
Yeah, we tend to be hyperbolic on here. I just wanted to make a point, so I'm sorry.
And Vlad is a big fan of the podcast, too.
Huge. So. Him and Cillian Murphy listen together, actually. Running gag. Next, we go to the mad scientist, Brian Banner. Now, Banner, as a certified scientist, which is the thing.
Yeah, definitely certified.
Yeah. Well, what is the correct combination of beer, luck, and sheer gutsiness that you use every year to make sure that when you fill out your bracket, it is 100% accurate?
Oh, 50-50-50.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50% beer, 50% guts, and 50% of whatever the other thing you said.
Was that Linkin Park song? That's what that made me just think of.
Yeah. I think there's someone on the internet who went back and added up the percentages, and they're like, fuck, it actually is 100.
Damn it, Linkin Park, you got us.
Touche. Linkin Park's like, check our math, bitches, just like Brian Banner. All right, guys, here on the Bro Force Squad podcast, we begin every episode with the most important thing in every bro's life. Morst. Ooh, Hershey. Swedish chef coming in hot. And since it's March, every year, the Bro Force Squad puts together an annual Movie Madness tournament. If you search our channel, you'll find all the old ones that we've done, anywhere from 64 comic book movies paired up against each other to...
Never Again.
Never Again. We all got that tattooed actually on our ass. Hurt like a bitch. To the 8 Batman actors pitted up against each other. We've done a lot of fun ones. And this year, we are doing the 2000's Comedies Movie Madness Tournament. So, in the description of this video, I have a link to the bracket that we have put together on Bracket HQ. However, I will tell you that bracket, by the time you're listening to this episode, will be updated with the winners from tonight's 8 play-in matchups for the 16 movies competing against each other to get into the tournament. So what I might recommend until you listen to this full episode is, if you look in the description, I will write down the 8 different matchups that we are about to score live on pod without the results. So you can look at that as a preview. And then when you're done, you can go check out the bracket and see who is squaring off against who next week. So
it's really intelligent, Jeff. It's a great idea.
Absolutely. Cycli, before we get into the bracket, when you and I put this together last week, now the 2000s, especially early 2000s, are sort of our coming of age period, I would say, especially with comedies. So as we started to put this field together, we had a top 8, and then we realized that there was so much legitimate depth that we could actually extend this field out to 24 movies and have 16 of the movies basically compete to get in to the field of 16, basically play those top 8. So why don't you just explain our thought process on expanding this last minute, and really just overall how incredibly deep this time period was for comedies. Just very much like a generational, I think, moment for the genre.
I think, first of all, we could have gone deeper. We could have done 32 if we really wanted to. There were arguably 4 or 5 more movies that were cut off. And then that was, I think, a top 30 was like the hard part, and then you're getting to like B level. But I think the reason we decided to expand it, where usually we would have stuck to the 8 or 16, was, I'm not going to get in an argument about the best era for comedies, right? Like it was our coming of age. We were teenagers at the time. I can absolutely adore and understand that 80s comedies were peak, 90s comedies were peak, but 2000s comedies, I think where we can all agree, where I feel like it was the best era for comedy, but again, that's anecdotal, I get that, but that was the last great era of comedy. I think we can all say that.
Yeah. At least As far as like a consistent time period of movies, yeah.
I'm not saying there haven't been great comedies since post 2010. There absolutely have, but in terms of consistency, it just isn't there.
Yeah, and so putting this together, the top 8. I'll read these off first. These are the 8 movies that have already advanced to the second round, and then tonight there will be 8 matchups, and winners of each of the matchups will go on to play one of these movies. So the top 8. This is in no particular order. We have Superbad, The Hangover, Step Brothers, Anchorman, Old School, Wedding Crashers, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Tropic Thunder. Excuse me. Now, Banner, before we get into the 8 play-in matchups, as far as a top 8 goes, that is pretty deep, I would say. Like, again, it's not in a particular order, but of any of those movies, I would not be surprised if probably 7 of them won. I won't say the one I would be surprised by. Looking at that, how do you feel about the gauntlet that lies ahead for the 16 movies competing tonight, for the hopes that they get to compete against one of those 8?
You know, this is going to come all down to matchups, right? I'm looking at the first round that we're going to discuss tonight, and some of these, if they can get out ahead, they can make a little bit of a run. There's some that I can see sneakily getting by. Now, I know we're not doing our criteria tonight, but I believe we will be for the rest of the tournament. And I mean, if the matchups land right, there could be some upsets.
Yeah, it's all about who you play when you play them. Before we get into the first matchup, I do want to say, to Banner's point, we're doing just on pod. The bros are scoring these 8 matchups tonight. But as the tournament advances and there's obviously fewer and more important matchups, we will definitely be leaning on you, our listeners, to help us decide the winners here. So we will need your help. We appreciate it. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts. Let us begin with
I got one more thing real quick before we go. I would take these 8 that are advanced, that have got the first round bye. I put them up against the top 8 of any other decade comedies, and pound per pound, I bet this has 6 of the top 10 mixed in there.
Yeah, and another thing,
I think that's the debate.
Definitely. The thing Cyclone I pointed out last week too is a lot of recurring actors in these movies. Like doing a 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, you could basically do like a 1 degree almost to connect all these movies somehow, or maybe 2 at the most, which is interesting. A lot of and it was kind of the same with like the the SNL cast that National Lampoon and everything getting started in the 80s. It was a little bit similar, I feel like, just a recipe that works when you want to put together a string of consistent comedy movies in a time period.
You feel that natural chemistry that those guys have.
Yep. And if they're not stars in all these movies, a lot of the same actors are making cameos in these films. All right. The scoring tonight is going to be really simple. We have 3 bros on the pod. We will each weigh in with the 2 movies competing against each other, which one we think is better. The movie that gets at least 2 out of the 3 bros votes advances. And again, all these matchups, the 8 of them. Oh, it's like fuck.
I'll flip a coin.
At math on the pod,
we'll flip a coin, and if the coin lands on its side, which it's done a ton of times on the pod,
at least 50%.
Yeah, then we're gonna have to have people call in live to the show. So we'll put the number at the bottom of your screen.
7. Okay.
It's 7. Thailand. Don't tell me the number's not working. That sounds like your problem. Get a new phone, bro. All right. We begin. The winner of this matchup will be facing off against Tropic Thunder. The 2 movies are Super Troopers, the first one, and Mean Girls, the OG one. Banner, let's go to you first. The only rationale you need is whatever rationale you want to give us. Which of these 2 movies between Super Troopers and Mean Girls do you think is better and should be advancing to face Tropic Thunder?
I am going to select Mean Girls to advance. I think I think the movie ages a lot better than Super Troopers does. I think Super Troopers, while it's a great comedy in its own right, I think that it can become less relatable as time goes on, whereas Mean Girls is never going away, ever. On top of that, you have the cultural phenomenon where, it's a musical now. I don't know if that's a phenomenon, but it is a musical now. So it's just a bigger IP as well. Mean Girls advancing on.
Check out our Mean Girls movie commentary. Cycling, I think I have a
we're
feeling.
so fucking drunk for that.
A little bit. Cycling, I think I know where you're going to lean here. Mean Girls or Super Troopers, and why?
Well, so I know where you're going to lean, and just to make sure that this isn't a sweep, I'm going to go Super Troopers. And here's why. Now, I will caveat. I do think Mean Girls is the better movie. It has obviously more heart. It's brilliantly written by Tina Fey. And it is a timeless classic. It is hilarious. But if we're going to my devil's advocate here is saying Super Troopers as a whole, scene to scene, is a funnier movie. And, so we can have the argument, well, are we doing better movies or better comedies here? Like, as in straight, how many times are you laughing your ass off?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's
what are we, the NBA debating the MVP, the best player versus the best season?
Exactly. We're being subjective here. So I'm going to make my pick because Banner went for Mean Girls. And I will recognize it's a better film. But I do disagree that it hasn't held up well. It's entirely still quoted all the time on the internets and Leader of Cola and all sorts of things. I absolutely love this film. It's by far you can argue Beer Fest is pretty good, but this is by far the best film that these guys put together. The sequel is actually not half bad.
I actually like the sequel better.
We did a review on the sequel, actually. Geiger.
Brian Cox is incredible in this film. I'm going to
hashtag Brian Strikers.
Pistol whip this guy's just shenanigans. I think it's up there with, I'm not saying it's as good as, but it's up there in terms of quotable with Superbad and Dumb and Dumber from scene to scene to scene. So I'm just going to base it off. I get way more laughs out of Super Troopers. So in the interest of giving them some credit, I pick Super Troopers.
That's a good point. And it is going to become a tougher point of contention as we go on versus better movie versus better comedy. Hopefully there's not too many movies or matchups where that distinction is a pretty wide gap, because it will be difficult. I like the Broken Lizard guys a lot. Now, my taste in their films might be viewed by some as a hot take, because for me, this is the third best Broken Lizard film behind Beer Fest. And I'm a huge Club Dread guy. Big Club Dread guy. You know what? You know I love a horror comedy. So yeah, that works really, especially a slasher comedy. So Super Troopers for me slots in third as far as Club Dread goes. It is quotable. I have to go with Mean Girls, though. It's an iconic movie. I think it's, aside from Amanda Seyfried, it's probably the best performance of any of the actors in it. That includes like all the great character actors that are utilized perfectly, like Tim Meadows and Lizzie Kaplan and obviously Amy Poehler. Now, Rachel McAdams, this is probably the most levity we've seen her inject into any performance she's done. She's kind of known as a very serious actor. I would have even ventured to say thespian. So to see her play a Regina George is super fun, and especially as her career has gone on, I think is even more cool to watch. So I'm going to go Mean Girls. This is a tough matchup, and I do have a lot of love for Super Troopers, but I just think, like Brian said earlier, a lot of it is just who is the draw.
Yes,
and
this is a bad matchup for Super Troopers.
It is a bad matchup for them.
It would have competed so much better against some teams. Again, when I think of like the opening scene of Super Troopers and he's pulled over, I can't pull over.
He's already pulled over. He can't pull over anymore.
But yeah, Mean Girls absolutely has, and this is a rarity we talked about last week. Is 2000s have a theme of raunchy comedies that like are quotable when we talk about old school. We'll get into some of these others, but Mean Girls is like the peak of all of it put together. So I could see Mean Girls making a run.
And how many times a lot of people probably don't even realize what it's from, but I still hear the quote, "She doesn't even go here."
I love that. In the background. People still say, fetch isn't going to happen. Stop trying to make fetch
happen. Trying to make fetch happen. All right, so Mean Girls advances to, do we want to call this the second round or just like into the tournament? For it to be a play-in, I feel like we have 2 minutes.
Yeah, play-in game, yeah.
I think this is the half round.
Okay, we'll call it that. Mean Girls will advance.
The 50-50-50 round.
Tropic Thunder. All right, our next matchup, the winner of this will go on to play Superbad. And ironic, this is going to be a theme of the tournament. We actually have a lot of crossover with actors in these 3 movies, the 2 competing and then the one in Superbad. The 2 movies competing here in our second matchup are Role Models and The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Cycling, we will go to you first. Paul Rudd, among, I think, several people, stars in both these. Elizabeth Banks as well. Role models or 40-year-old virgin, and why?
So I feel like there's a special place in my heart for role models due to the fact that it is probably the most underrated of the comedies in this list. It does not have the pedigree that the Anchormans, the Old Schools, the Hangovers has. And it's like, again, the Paul Rudd performance, but everything about it. This movie does have a ton of heart. I love kid actors, first of all, that cuss. And the little brothers in this,
Ben Affleck.
like it is, they are so good in this film. I quote a minotaur like all the time.
I dare you to penetrate me again.
It has the LARPing. It has like, there's a certain, I don't know, like the nerdism to it. Like everything that has like it's a little different than everything we get out of these movies. And so I was a big fan of that. I mean, but 4-year-old virgin, I just feel like that one I distinctly remember watching in theater and just dying laughing. Like, I mean, that was one of those movies, the theater experience really sells the movie. Like, I don't even know if I like the movie as much as I remember the experience of watching the movie. And that was one of the 40-year-old virgin. I was literally cracking up in the theater. And that movie also does, while it's raunchy and ridiculous, has a ton of heart. And I think I'm going to go with 40-year-old virgin here.
Nice.
It's a tough one again.
All right, Banner, 40-year-old virgin or role models?
I echo a lot of what you say. I think role models might be the most underrated of this tournament. I think I Love You Man can make a run at that role as well. But how do you beat 40-year-old virgin in this? Again, this is a tough matchup. 40-year-old virgin kind of, I mean, it was right in the hotbed of, it came out in 2005, right? Right in the hotbed of the early aughts of this comedy mecca that we had. And just, it's going to have a really hard matchup in the second round. But if it can get past that, I think it may be able to roll to the championship. Don't at me.
Don't at him.
Don't at me. Right, is that a thing still?
Yeah. So 40-year-old virgin advances. I will also give it the vote, so it'll be a clean sweep. It will go on to face Superbad. I'll say this. 40-year-old virgin, iconic for me, and I think you could easily make an argument that it shouldn't even have to be playing in the play-in round of this tournament, that it should be in the top 8, and it should have already been given its entrance into the second round. For me, this was the first I hadn't seen Freaks and Geeks, and I hadn't seen Paul Rudd in anything before this, and I knew Steve Carell from The Daily Show. But for the most part, this cast was pretty much brand new to me, and obviously now they're legends in comedy. But to see them like really cutting their teeth in a role like this, and to Cycling's point earlier, there are a lot of really raunchy comedies on this list, but the 40-year-old virgin, for the most part, it's like rather subdued and laid back, and its humor is just like the wittiness of the characters. There's no like scene where Will Ferrell is screaming or on fire, or like where I guess the waxing scene a little bit, but that was even legitimately real.
He really did that.
Yeah, he did. That was all real. There's just so many subtle lines. One of my favorite lines in the movie, which is not like talked about a lot, is when Paul Rudd is giving Steve Carell his porn collection, and he's like looking through the videos, and he's like, Harry Twatter, Everybody Loves Raymond. Well, that's just a really good show.
Good show.
And then later on, that's what Steve Carell's character is watching, is Everybody Loves Raymond, and cracking up at it. Just, these are both great movies, and role models. I almost gave it my vote because of the quote that Christopher Mintz-Plasse has, where he goes, "I think I like the idea of Coke more than I actually like Coke."
I think we've quoted that a lot. Like I like
all
the idea.
Time.
I just put something else in there for Coke. I like the idea of that.
He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I remember as the line in the bookstore scene in 40-year-old virgin, or like how he's like, "Don't ever answer her question, just answer her question with another question."
I don't know you, and
it's like, oh shit, that worked.
It did, and it probably wouldn't in real life. And then ironically, Elizabeth Banks is a main character in Role Models.
There's again, not lots of crossovers here.
Yep. So 40-year-old virgin will advance with a sweep to face Superbad. All right, our next matchup.
Wow.
The winner of this will take on Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy. We have Legally Blonde taking on I Love You Man. All right, I will go first. My wife is going to be upset for this, but to Cycly's point, I'm going to not be consistent with my criteria. I'm going to base it on matchups. And I don't think Legally Blonde is funny. It's a really good movie. I don't laugh when I watch it. I don't. And I don't mean that to be an indictment on the film, but I think it's just a good movie. I don't think it can really hold a candle to any of the comedy movies in this tournament. I love Reese Witherspoon in the role. I think it's probably the second best Luke Wilson performance of his career behind Old School. But I Love You Man, probably in the top 5 quotable movies in this tournament, which might not seem like a compliment, but it really is when you actually start to break this down. And Cycly knows this. As a big How I Met Your Mother guy, I love when Jason Segel is in anything. So I'm usually going to give him the leg up. But this is Paul Rudd and him, just literally a bromance that we can all aspire to. And throw in some Andy Samberg, some J.K. Simmons. It's just a really, really well-rounded film that I think explores a relationship dynamic that we don't see much on film, which is the healthy bromance and how important it is in people's lives. So I might get hate for this, but I am going to go I Love You Man. Gets the horns vote. We're just going to go in random order each time. Banner, who do you go with between Legally Blonde and I Love You Man? Elle Woods or Jobin?
Cycle, you go first. I'm undecided.
Wow.
I need to see.
He wants to be the swing vote.
I kind of do.
But then I have to make my vote Legally Blonde for this.
No, you don't.
Put him
you could
no,
really
no,
make
no
you
pressure.
could make him
No
look
pressure.
stupid by not picking.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm like.
Make his
Do I
vote
just-
meaningless.
I'm happy to go corrupt. I will go Legally Blonde just to fuck Brian and see what he goes with. But this is you're
go too
right in
hard.
terms of the Legally Blonde not being slapstick funny, right? Like cracking up. But I would put it about on par with Mean Girls in terms of its comedy. Yeah, you cracking up the whole time? No, but you're kind of smiling at the characters and what they're doing. There are a few moments that Jennifer Coolidge is cracking you up while you're watching.
Yeah.
Is she bad in anything though?
No.
But she
not.
is the same person and everything.
Yeah.
So, I
And
love her.
she's
But
awesome.
yeah, but it's like you're watching White Lotus and you're just like, okay, she's the same woman.
Cycly, before you continue, and this is completely fair because I feel like there's a lot of jokes that you would get that we don't. How much of your affinity for Legally Blonde is tied to the fact that you are a practicing attorney who also went to law school?
That is a funny question because you would think of all legal movies, right? Like dramas, whatever. That Legally Blonde would be so far fetched compared to the actual legal profession. And it's the best film in accuracy when I'm not saying in its actual law practice that she does, but it's the best film in terms of her experience in law school. The Socratic method that's taught in the where you're just randomly called on in class, and it's a real thing and it's horrifying. It is the scariest thing when you're in law school to get called on, even if you haven't done the reading, you're trying to hide. And even if you have done the reading, you don't know the manner in which your professor is going to ask the question. There was one time I got called on, I got the question right, and my heart was pounding, and I was like, hey, you did it. That's great. And then the professor just kept calling on me until I got something wrong. Literally, and it's not yes or no questions, right? You have to defend the things they're asking. And very much like in the movie. And I remember just my whole body, the whole, because you're in front of your peers, you feel so embarrassed if you do something stupid. And that's what the movie shows. And I really will respect it for that. There's another side of Legally Blonde that I crack up about is that my dad, who's the biggest James Bond nerd of all time, loves action movies, suave spies. He is obsessed with Legally Blonde.
He's an alpha, but he can let his hair down a little bit and enjoy this one.
He loves it. And I think Legally Blonde was one of the first times in the early aughts where men felt like they actually could laugh at female humor.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. So, but again, to kind of carry on the conversation of
our inherent biases are part of this, so that I don't think you should have to apologize.
But no, but
that makes
I'll be honest, I Love You Man, the bromance is the most real. it showed men how we can be emotional with each other. I know this is getting too corny, but like it literally showed us how like our friendships do matter. We're not just there talking about sports, and we're not just there like we actually need to be there for emotionally, and that Legally Blonde and I Love You Man both have a ton of heart. So
Yeah.
just for the sake of Banner being put on the corner here, I'm gonna go Legally Blonde. But I Love You Man.
Before I toss it to you, Banner, number one, just a quote from I Love You Man. How often do you go to a sporting event now? And obviously they're not playing, but you want to go, here we go, Galaxy. And then another thing, cycling, this is going to blow your mind. So this gentleman, let me find my camera. You probably can't see it. From Legally
Blurry
Blonde.
a little bit. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's like the awkward friend.
Yeah.
The actor who plays him is a guy named Oz Perkins. He is the director of Longlegs.
Really?
Yeah. And he just did that movie, The Monkey.
Oh, okay. Mr. Horror
So he
guy
has
over
become like the next big horror director. And if you look back, he's like the weird, awkward dude.
That's so funny. Like the kid in high school who all of a sudden you're like, wow, that guy did that?
Exactly. All right, Banner, you wanted the smoke, so no one feels sorry for you. Between Legally Blonde and I Love You Man, who is going home? Who has to tell their pet band, sorry, the fucking ride is over? And then who gets to face Anchorman in the next round?
You know, one of my favorite lines from Legally Blonde is, "And I'm taking the dog, dumbass."
So empowering.
But I think Paul Rudd and Jason Segel are going to need to tell Jennifer Coolidge that, because I think I'm going I Love You Man.
Wow.
I don't have the experience that Cycly does of going through law school. That just sounds like my worst nightmare ever. That's awesome that it's accurate, but I Love You Man it says a story that everybody needs to hear, whether they know it or not. And I think you could go back and watch it at any time. You'd be like, you know what? I need to call that friend back up and see what's going on with so-and-so. And it's just a great reminder of that. It's also just fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I'm glad you say that, because as we've gotten older, I know Cycle and I talk about this a lot, but like we're just unabashed now about our emotions, and I love you guys. I'm willing to say it. And if you were ever lifting weights and I needed to spot you to motivate you, I would say, just give it all you got. Give it all you got. The truth.
That's like, I'll be honest, I would have picked I Love You Man if Banner didn't need to be put on the spot to get away with that responsibility. But it is. I Love You
also
Man. That is important. As guys, we need to talk to each other. 100%.
But if you as the lawyer didn't give Legally Blonde some love, I mean, it would be a tough plane ride home for that movie.
We'd have to consider firing you as our lawyer.
You can't afford anyone else.
Yeah, until we get our next copyright strike on YouTube, and like, hey, what's up? All right, next up, the winner of this matchup, this is the fourth one, will be facing Old School in the second round. We have Meet the Parents and Shaun of the Dead. Cycly, let's go to you first. Who of these two films will get to take on one of the juggernauts in this tournament, Todd Phillips' Old School? Is it Meet the Parents or Shaun of the Dead? The first of the Cornetto trilogy, but not the last one. I'm going to go with
Shaun of the Dead here. Dry, witty British humor is my shit. I love it. The absolute, like, you know, the fact of like, hey, we're gonna go to the Winchester, let this all blow over and drink a pint.
Have a pint.
Like, still to this day, like, especially with everything going on in the world right now, you still see that online, tweeted at response to everything that's happening right now. You know, it's not definitely, like, again, for American audiences, I don't know, there's a certain dryness again to British comedies that this movie has that I don't know if it's completely translatable. But this is going to be a hot take. I think Meet the Parents is severely overrated.
Wow.
I like the movie. I do. I enjoy it. I think the whole, like, I have tits, Greg, can you milk me, is so, like, okay. Like, it's a funny line, but it's just that's like the peak comedy of the movie. It's too much cringe humor in that movie to me. I don't mind cringe humor. Like, I love The Office. I love that kind of stuff. But, like, at some level, I don't like being like this, like, in awkward scenes the whole movie. Like, oh, I don't like it. And Ben Stiller's great, but, like, he has better movies, especially in this era. So I like Meet the Parents just fine. But Shaun of the Dead has absolutely held the test of time and is still considered one of the best comedy / zombie movies. And it's a great take on zombies. It's a great take on male friendship. We were just talking about I Love You Man. Absolutely brilliant at that. And we as like immature adults can really relate to like a still someone in their 30s still trying to find themselves, and it takes society collapsing for him to do that. And so as a horror comedy fan, Shaun of the Dead is up there with the best of them. So yeah, going Shaun of the Dead here.
All right, Shaun of the Dead up 1-0. Banner, Meet the Parents or Simon Pegg's Shaun of the Dead. Well, I guess Edgar Wright's, but
yeah.
I really want to go Meet the Parents here, but I kind of, for the same reason as you, Cycly, I can't. One, I think Shaun of the Dead is a better movie. I'm not going to say Meet the Parents is overrated. I think it's been overplayed. This movie came out in 2000, so right at the beginning of our threshold here. And that was back, kids, you may not remember this, but there were like commercials in the middle of your shows and your movies, and it was called cable.
The ad tier is what you mean.
Sure. Well,
Cable.
Anyway, while you were watching this cable, because you didn't get to pick what you got to watch, you just watched whatever the TV gods wanted you to watch. Meet the Parents was on literally every day.
Dude, it's like TBS had 3 movies, and that was the one that
it 100%.
Yeah. And so I think that if Meet the Parents just chilled the fuck out for like 5-10 years, then we came back to it, it would be much better. But you got to go Shaun of the Dead here. This started a great trilogy, whereas Meet the Parents just had a trilogy and shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But fuckers is funny, guys, because it sounds like fuckers.
God, it is kind of weird that like you look back and it's like that's a joke that they wrote in there.
I know.
It was just like, to me, it was funny that because it was Robert De Niro playing like a funny, like he's Robert De Niro, but he's kind of funny. It's like, again, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but yeah, like it's just not the greatest in my opinion.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, so either way, Shaun of the Dead advances. And let me just say this. Geiger would agree with me here. Here's another hot take. The funniest character, it's not even close, in Meet the Parents is Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
How's your portfolio? I'd say strong.
Quite strong.
Quite strong. Strike while the iron's hot. I'm going to tell you about that. You know all about that. Meet the Parents, it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. And if it were in a different time period, it might rise to the top a little bit more. But I think once you get past the initial conceit of like, haha, your future father-in-law doesn't like you and he's ex-CIA, so you're on a lie detector.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't have enough legs to really carry the movie all the way through without getting a little bit repetitive.
This is a 1997 comedy in 2000.
Wow. That's
well said.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Well said. Another thing that I think hurts it is kind of to my point about Owen Wilson, who is criminally not in this movie enough. Of all the movies in here, sans maybe a few, the least ensemble cast is Meet the Parents. It's really Ben Stiller and De Niro, and that gets a little bit grating after a while because, again, they're just playing the same tune over and over. And the last thing that I'll say, I think because of Cycling Mind's affinity for this movie, Shaun of the Dead, if I were a betting man in Vegas right now, this is the value pick in this tournament. Like, this is the dark horse where you're going to get really good odds. Yeah, for it to go far. Because, like, Cycling are a huge British dry wit fan, Cycling more so than me. Like, you watch, like, what's the fucking show you turn me on to? Is it the IT Squad or whatever? What's the show?
Not that one, but I'm not sure which one you're
Not
looking
Dairy Girls. I don't know. It's that.
Oh, In-Betweeners?
The In-Betweeners, yeah. God, it's so fucking dry wit. It's like, where are the jokes?
It's great.
And this isn't on that level, but like even simple things like, was it gonna? From Simon Pegg in this movie, it's just fucking ridiculous. And you guys know, I mean, is there a bigger fan of the zombie genre? The zombies in Dracula are basically like porn to me these days. And this was
What's funny is 10 years ago you would have hated zombie shit. Like, you've come around, which I respect. That's growth.
I've
We're
matured.
about growth here
Matured.
on Pro 4 Squad.
Yeah.
Matured.
But you guys know I love a good horror comedy, and this was one of the first entryways into that. I think it's the best Edgar Wright film. I wish At World's End was anywhere near on the level, because conceptually it's the best idea of these 3 movies, but
And it starts off so good.
I know, and then when the aliens show up, it's like, why did we do that? But dude, Shaun of the Dead is a dangerous movie in this tournament. That's all that I will say. And it's going to have a clean sweep. And I know that Old School will probably be like a double-digit favorite, but I'm telling you, if there's a sexy money line sitting out there, this might be it.
I want to say Old School didn't want, like, yeah, Old School's the favorite, but I don't think they wanted that.
They don't want the smoke.
Guys, I'm just saying, coming out of this region, I Love You Man and Shaun of the Dead may make it out of the next round.
Damn.
Whew. I Love You Man, it'll be interesting. Okay, next set of 4, we have Pineapple Express taking on Dodgeball, a true underdog story. The winner here will take on Wedding Crashers in the next round. Cycly, we will go to you first. Between Pineapple Express and Dodgeball, which is the better 2000s comedy? Yeah, this is a tough one.
Geez. I mean, so what, a few months ago we had a Bro v Bro, I believe, and it was Dodgeball versus, was it Anchorman?
Yeah, that sounds right.
I can look it up.
Sounds right.
I think it was, and it was interesting because you guys kind of Dodgeball was a one watch for me, and not in a bad way. Like, I thought it was hilarious, and I just never really revisited it. And then after that, like, after seeing and hearing your guys' perspectives on that, I was like, I need to revisit that comedy. It
was Dodgeball versus Anchorman. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Anchorman. Yeah. What did I say? Old School?
Something like that. I can't remember. But I rewatched Dodgeball because it was the 20th anniversary of it. Yeah. And Will Ferrell's Peter LaFleur worked. To me, he's the funniest character in the movie, and he's trying so little to be, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, so I got to give credit to Dodgeball. It held up better than I expected. Like, I think I watched it with you guys when it came out. Like, we all went to the theater together. And then I just kind of, like, some comedies, it's the more you watch, the funnier it is. Like, the show, I Think You Should Leave on Netflix, the skit show. Like, it's one of the, like, you watch one skit and you're like, that's not funny at all. And for some reason, you watch the same skit 5 times and all of a sudden it's the funniest fucking thing you've ever
called
seen.
you crying about the Impractical Jokers episode. I was actually in tears, like my stomach was hurting.
Right. But, like, it's so funny how that show could be so not funny and then change on you. And I think that was Dodgeball to me. Like, I literally was like, I don't remember, like, I remember liking it, but, like, it just seemed like very, like, okay, one-time humor. And rewatching it after we had the Bro v Bro definitely held up and was much funnier than I remembered. However, I'm going to give my point here to Pineapple Express because Pineapple Express does a couple things here that are a little different than the comedies we're reaching at. So Dodgeball doesn't differentiate itself enough to me compared to a lot of the comedies on here. There are a lot of similar comedies. Mm-hmm. Pineapple Express, like how we talk about Mean Girls or something like that. One, it's kind of an action comedy. We don't have a lot of action comedies in this. It has the bromance in this. I mean, obviously this is one more heavily based in the drug comedy. Fucking Linger. I think we still
lingers.
He fucking lingers.
And they're in there for like 2 seconds. No one had any fucking Percocet.
Craig Robinson. This is a great cast overall. This movie takes place over like a 24-hour period, and we love movies that take place in like one setting. And the movie, I think, what gives Pineapple Express the edge to me is it's one of the more unique films on this list. And again, shot for shot, scene for scene, is a better movie. Like, Dodgeball is hilarious, but going back to the very first matchup, Pineapple Express is the better movie here.
All right, Pineapple Express 1-0. I'll go second. This is a tough one for me. I've seen each of these movies, I believe, double-digit times. Low double digits, but many, many a time. They're both incredibly quotable. Dodgeball more so when you get to the actual tournament. I told you guys when I rewatch it, though, Peter LaFleur, Vince Vaughn, obviously he's probably my favorite comedic. And I say obviously because I see his praises all the time. He's probably my favorite comedic actor of all time. But his like not giving a fuck and the way that manifests itself in different comedic ways is what makes this movie to me. Like, I know White Goodman is the thing you remember, but when you rewatch it, Peter LaFleur, his quote at the beginning, his gym is going bankrupt and they need to raise money. So they, of course, throw a car wash and they only have one person come by 3 times because he wants Justin Long to wash his rims. And Peter LaFleur, clearly wanting to do as little as possible to make this work, says, look, guys, if an impromptu car wash put together 2 hours before we set it up doesn't get the job done, maybe it's just not in the cards. That level of dry wit is to be commended. But to Cycly's point, Pineapple Express, man, I'm just gonna say this, and then I'll let it go because I'm gonna sing this guy's praises later. Danny motherfucking McBride in this movie. Thug life.
He came at first. He was like a person that kind of annoyed me, and then now I'm like, give me more Danny McBride.
I fucking
right,
love
his gemstones, like Eastbound and Down. Like, man, yeah, 100%.
The scene where Seth Rogen is at his house and they're having a dick measuring contest about who's more chill. I'm way more fucking chill.
Way
than
more
you,
fucking
bro.
chill than you, bro.
I'm in a motherfucking kimono right now. Okay. So I'm way more chill than you, bro. All right. Pineapple Express will advance, but Banner, people bet on this shit. So does it get your vote or does Dodgeball cover the spread?
I think Dodgeball has better quotes with a somewhat forgettable story, whereas Pineapple Express, this is a better version of Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, right? This is what I don't know if, how many people have been in this situation, but you and your best friend are hanging out and all of a sudden you're like, man, let's go to the store. I'm hungry. All right, let's go. So then you go to one store and you get distracted. You end up doing something else. And then your buddy calls and you end up here. And you end up having this crazy night where you're just all over the fucking town. And you go back at the end of the day and you're like, holy shit, that was a crazy fun night. That's what this movie is. And everybody remembers that night.
And how often,
guns are involved.
Yeah, right. How often have you and I just said to each other, where you going? There's a ton of cool shit we could look at on the internet together.
I mean, if you've said it once, you've said it 100 times.
We still quote, I thought hurricane season was over.
It used to be ruthless. I seen it. So Banner, I'm sorry. I was a little bit distracted by how astute all those points were. Are you giving your vote to Dodgeball or Pineapple Express?
Pineapple Express. Pineapple Express, clearly. It's a
clean sweep. It will move on to face Wedding Crashers. All right.
This is another matchup nightmare for Dodgeball, by the way. Dodgeball had a bad matchup.
All right. Next up, facing Step Brothers in the second round will be the winner of School of Rock and Team America World Police. I will go first because I'm not going to have much to say here. I don't like School of Rock. It's probably the only movie in this tournament I actually do not enjoy watching. I think it is insanely overrated. Insanely overrated. I don't even think it's a good movie. Team America World Police does not age well, as do many Matt Stone and Trey Parker projects. However, there are several I laugh so hard I'm crying moments. One of them is the scene where, for some fucking reason, with the Armageddon score playing in the background, Gary just can't stop throwing up in a back alley.
Get off the street, you fucking bum.
Gave up on life, didn't you? Like, who's this guy from the balcony that doesn't know any of the context and yelling at me? Another line that I love, because they're just making fun of stereotypes of people in action movies. I can't remember the guy's name, but Gary says to the jock on the team, "What's your problem with me?" And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, you want to go?"
The puppets are rub up on each other.
Yeah, it's like, what? So Team America, I don't think has a long run in this tournament, but I just really don't like School of Rock on any level. There's one quote from Jack Black, which you guys know I quote all the time, about his hangover, that I like. But to me, it doesn't even belong in this tournament. I'm fine letting it play it. It's good for the school, helps with recruiting and enrollment, but don't even think it should be here. So Team America World Police gets my vote. Banner, who do you vote for, School of Rock or Team America?
I think School of Rock is another one of those that just got overplayed on network TV way too much.
I hate to keep blaming TBS, but I think it's them again.
100% it's 100% it's TBS.
If it's not TBS, it's TNT. I don't know the difference between the two.
There's not one.
Yeah, it's same but different. That movie should be. That right? One's not. I don't think that one. I think that one was after 2010.
Really? The Interviewees?
I thought so. Maybe not.
Only there was a way we could verify this.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, I'm going School of Rock here again. Team America doesn't hold up. I think it was funny at the time that it came out. At the age that I was, I don't think it's funny now.
Very fair.
That's pretty much it. I think School of Rock isn't as much a comedy as just another feel-good movie.
Very fair as well. So
matchup-wise, School of Rock moves on. Doesn't matter for for the next round. If we're gonna
All
be
right, Cycly, you are the swing vote. School of Rock and Team America each have a vote. Who gets to face off against Step Brothers in the second round?
You asked for this
question. I don't think I did.
Yeah, when did he ask for this?
I don't recall. Horns, when was the last time you watched School of Rock? Out of curiosity. Like,
I'll be honest,
I respect you for not liking it.
It's probably been about 15 years. But see, it's like the chicken or the egg. Do I not watch it because I don't like it, or do I not like it because I don't watch it?
Are you unhappy because you eat? Do you eat because you're unhappy?
It's a vicious cycle. None of those make this. Jeez.
I feel like now that you're a teacher and older, there's a certain quality to School of Rock. I think you should read it. Even if you don't find it funny, there's a lot of heart in School of Rock. Like the child, again, I alluded to good children actors, and School of Rock has that.
Yeah.
There is, again, like Jack Black, you can almost compare him to a less extreme Will Ferrell, right? Like sometimes you can have too much Jack Black, and sometimes you have the perfect amount of Jack Black. Like the Mario movie, perfect amount of Jack Black. Like as Bowser was fantastic. This is a movie where he's still Jack Black, but he's held back a little bit, and I think that's
by the rating, which might work in his favor. It's PG, right?
Yeah, is it? Yeah, it's
PG-13.
Pretty sure. Cello. And it's rare to see, again, in a genre of an era that was like very raunchy type comedies, one that was more kid centric and family centric, but had so much humor. I really think, like, I'm not saying you'll love it, it'll become your favorite comedy, but I think maybe if you do give it another shot, you'll like it a little more. Team America, as someone who loves politics, as someone who loves history, someone who loves satire, like I love Team America. It slaps on every level, and not only that, and this is what Trey and Matt Stone do so well. And wait, Matt, Trey Parker, getting names, do so well. They are so good at music, right? Like obviously, the Book of Mormon, they can write amazing songs. The songs in Team America have no right as being good as they are.
Everyone has AIDS.
AIDS. And the thing is, like, again, the satire is so lost on people. Like, people don't understand that they're making fun of this element.
This movie can be as smart as you want it to be, or it can be as fucking surface level and stupid as you want it to be.
And in a post 9/11 world, it was ballsy to make this film, right? That was almost like making fun of America.
You could not make this movie now.
Like, yeah, it was making fun of like everything we were up to.
Can you imagine?
Like, no, it was,
Good God.
And the thing about it, the hardest part for Team America in this bracket, and it's been because it's such a product of the post 9/11 era and the pre and the during like the Iraq War, like not to bring politics in it, but that is literally the point of this movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's hard to watch in this context. Like if you show this to your students or show it to someone in Gen Z, like they might find it funny, but it's of a particular era. And that's the hard part for Team America right now. As a film,
when we blow up Paris and we're like, "You're welcome."
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, it's still applicable to this day. But I think that's what holds back Team America in this situation. So I'll give it to School of Rock. I will say that this is probably the weakest combo of movies.
Yep. School of Rock is getting murdered by Step Brothers in the second round. That's like a 20-point line.
We can go ahead and we'll pen them on.
If we take anything out of this, I think Horns, like kind of like I looked back and rewatched. Oh my gosh, why I already forgot.
Dodgeball.
Why did I forget Dodgeball? Give School of Rock another chance. Not saying you'll love it, but you might find you don't hate it as much.
Look, it's on TBS right now. Actually,
that'd be so funny. No, you're like,
why are you watching
TBS
really while you're? Probably is though. All right, School of Rock advances over Team America World Police. All right, last two matchups. Next up, we have Hot Fuzz taking on Zoolander, the first one, of course. The winner of this matchup will face The Hangover in the second round. Who went first last time? Was it me? Yeah. Okay. I don't remember what the order is because there really isn't one.
Jeff, you go first.
Me? Okay. Hot Fuzz or Zoolander? Man, these are two movies that I like. Zoolander is much more polarizing. There, some of the most iconic scenes of the early 2000s, in just quotes. I mean, Derek Zoolander's quote, or sorry, Hansel's quote about Sting, where he says the music that he's making, I don't listen to it, but the fact that he's making it, I respect that. It's really good. Geiger and I quote all the time when Christine Taylor, I can't remember her character's name, but she goes to Hansel's house to try and get help when Derek has been hypnotized. And she goes, Derek has been brainwashed to kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And Hansel says, and? It's such a slow Tuesday for them. I'm going to go Hot Fuzz, though. I'm a big Edgar Wright guy, and the Cornetto trilogy has two really, really good movies, Shaun of the Dead and this. I also think Mr. Dalton is Timothy Dalton. I know, Cycle, your dad being a big James Bond fan, probably would have loved seeing him in this. You guys know I love a slasher movie. My fucking God. You put horror and comedy together, and I'm usually there for it. This works really well there. There's an interesting twist. The British dry wit works perfectly. And shockingly, I believe this is why Edgar Wright was the director on Ant-Man for so long and didn't end up getting to do it. But very competent action scenes in Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
Like really, really good action with a limited budget. Works really well. And I do like Zoolander, but as we've been saying, all tournament guys, I just think this is a tough matchup for it. And Zoolander is very polarizing with its, I'm trying to think of the polite word to say it, dumbed down humor, I guess, where the character is like, I mean, they have a gasoline fight in the movie. So that's inherently just going to be like too much of a ask for the audience. So I'm going to go Hot Fuzz here. Although I do like both these movies. They're very, very different. But I'm going to go Hot Fuzz here. Cycly, we'll go to you. Hot Fuzz or Zoolander?
That's tough. You know, I actually, for the longest time, this is kind of funny to allude to. I didn't watch Zoolander when it first came out because based on the trailer, it looked like it just was a wannabe Austin Powers. I didn't know, obviously, the core, like it just like, oh, he's a model. And then turns into like some secret. I was like, okay, like we get it. Like Austin Powers already a satire comedy.
Yeah.
Of this. And then I watched Zoolander like years later and I was like, oh my God, like I was cracking up. I was like, no, I mean, yeah, can you allude it to like Austin Powers? Sure, but like it is its own thing and absolutely worthy of its place in like comedy. You know, again, I love this is another one where Will Ferrell gets to take a back seat and it's better for the movie.
Yes.
And he is a perfect villain in this.
He invented the keyboard necktie.
Oh my God. And Jerry Stiller, absolute like legend.
But again, Cycly, to your point, his character's name is Maury Ballstein. It's like
20 years later, it's still funny.
Yes, but it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we don't need to put a gag in everything we do.
Kind of. It was, what year was it? I assume this was early aughts, right? So like
I think it was 02 Zoolander.
Yeah,
but
so again, kind of to
03,
Banner's
yeah.
point, like some of these movies could have easily been like late 90s movies in
2001
the genre.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so like again, different world. Hot Fuzz, I have always struggled in my place of comparing this to Shaun of the Dead and which one is actually better. And that is a compliment. Hot Fuzz, the storyline of this perfect little British village being the safest city in the country and having this dark side to it while keeping it's almost, again, it's like the second, there's two of these, Pineapple Express, the only other action comedy in this. And the action in this movie, like you alluded to, is fantastic, but it never loses its dryness, its wittiness, and its comedy throughout the entire thing, even in the middle of the action scenes. The you know what still to this day in comedies is alluded to is when he jumps the fence from fence to fence, like he jumps like those 8 backyards, like that happens all the time in movies.
Yeah,
now.
and the one like then Nick Frost just runs through one of them on accident.
Yeah, they'll always is something that's still alluded to this day. Again, another good buddy bromance here in this movie. I love the missing swans that keep getting called into the cops, and they're like, it's just the one swan actually. It's I have to give it to Hot Fuzz. This is a brilliant This has the one thing I'll compare it to Hot Fuzz and to Shaun of the Dead is Hot Fuzz I think has a little more smartness to it.
Oh yeah, I mean
It's
there is a
it's
whodunit
wittier.
component, that I really like.
It's wittier and it's a great reveal if you've never seen it. We don't have to go into it, but like what's going
Please
on in
don't.
the movie is fantastic. Yeah, Banner.
I
Yeah.
will say the early 2000s, you guys know this, the action comedy genre was never better. We have the Rush Hours, we have Blue Streak, we have I Spy. I mean, it was like this is definitely in that category. But that's just a fun fucking time at the movies, watching shit blow up, and then like the buddy cop element of it. I mean, to a lesser extent, I think the Lethal Weapons and Beverly Hills Cops. But Hot Fuzz isn't talked about because I think in that genre, because I think it's more comedy than action, but it's definitely competently done in that regard as well.
And British comedies always get pushed a little bit aside in art. Like I feel like if you're having this conversation in London, it's completely different, and people are looking at like Hot Fuzz as like everyone talks about that.
For sure.
But Banner,
So
Hot Fuzz makes it, but like honestly, like it's worth watching, especially for the mystery behind the scenes.
All right, Banner, are you going to give Zoolander at least the ability to cover here, since Hot Fuzz will advance to face The Hangover?
Yes, by default, because Hot Fuzz is the only one on this list that I have never seen. And so I'm going to have to give the point to Zoolander. With that being said, now that the game is over, we've hit triple zeros. I think I will like Hot Fuzz better than Zoolander.
You will, yeah.
I think you will. Yeah.
They're so different, though, is what's an interesting thing about the tournament. You get these weird matchups.
It's more up your alley. I honestly would think you might like Hot Fuzz more than Shaun of the Dead, too.
I love Shaun of the Dead.
That's why it's interesting to get people's opinion. It's very, like, hard to get. If those two are matched up against each other, I don't know how someone could come up with an opinion.
Yeah. And that's why the Cornetto trilogy, clearly they tried to go for very different genres with each one, because The World's End is like a sci-fi epic. And I wish it would have just been like a John Hughes type movie about these friends reconnecting and doing this pub crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last matchup. The winner of this will face Forgetting Sarah Marshall in the second round. We have The Breakup and Borat, which I know there's like a subtitle to Borat. It's pretty long. It's part of the gag. I don't know who has not gone first in a while. Banner, we'll start with you. The Breakup or Borat?
I am going to go with The Breakup for my vote. I've never been a big Borat fan, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people, like, when this first came out, that was just obsessed with it, so I think I just got annoyed with it. On the flip side, The Breakup is one of the best stories in this tournament. The pettiness out of Vince Vaughn, again, if he may end up being the MVP of this entire tournament between all of his cameos and the few that he's already starred in.
We'll have to count out. He's
Gary on the bass drum.
Come. He might be in the most movies of anyone on him or Will Ferrell. We'll have to check. Because he's definitely in at least 4 or 5.
But it's, again, it's a great movie, how it's so petty. You never think that, when you're in a long-term relationship, it'll end, and then how you deal with that and grow up and learn a lot about yourself in such a hilarious way. When he's playing the PlayStation, Madden on the PlayStation with the kid.
Oh my God.
Might be one of the funniest scenes in this entire tournament.
Yes. Banner votes for The Breakup. It's up 1-0. Cycling, The Breakup or Borat?
So, The Breakup, I don't think I like as much as you guys. I remember the first time I saw it, and it was one of the first times I remember being so annoyed with the trailer for showing all the funny parts. And I think The Breakup, and we kind of alluded to, Jeff, when you talked about Legally Blonde, where it's like, it doesn't feel like as much of a comedy. The movie itself isn't as funny as I think the trailer made it out to be.
It gets pretty hard with the emotional stuff.
Yeah,
and it really does.
That's not me being negative on it, but like we talked about that with some of the movies earlier. So it's like when I saw the trailer, and I remember, I think Horns, you and I saw this together. I think we both talked about like, oh, the trailer showed all the funniest parts of the movie, and that has obviously stuck with me forever in terms of like everything what trailers do now. And it like sometimes it ruins the movie for me, because like The Breakup, like had a lot more going for it, and I thought I was expecting a more slapsticky comedy, and I didn't get that. Now, I will give Breakup a lot of credit. Spoilers, skip ahead 10 seconds. But the fact that they did not get back together is something I will always respect.
Yeah.
That feels a little more rom-com-y to me, right? Like I mean, it's okay to have a rom-com on this, but it felt like, hey, it was a story about these two people who moved on. And so I really like the Breakup, but I don't think personally that it stands up as one of the great comedies of the aughts. While Borat, I understand Banner, what you just said about Borat, but I think what makes Borat funny to me was almost like a la like Team America, the satire of what's actually happening behind the scenes. The jokes that Borat is saying are not the jokes he's actually making, and there is a lot of things that are still applicable to this day that Borat kind of shows. And yeah, it has its slapsticky moments, like the kidnapping Pamela Anderson and like all that kind of stuff. But really what it's showing is like the comedy of like behind the scenes America. And when he goes into like Atlanta and the ghetto, or he's hanging out with the frat bros and that kind of stuff, like that stuff, while unlike Team America where it definitely shows its age, Borat still has those elements of like that's America to this day. And while Borat is absolutely insane in comedy, there's a brilliance behind the intent, and so and it's also still quotable. Like, I mean, who still doesn't go my wife? So I'm gonna
when he
give it to
sings the
Borat here.
Kazakhstan national anthem, but to the theme of our national anthem.
You have to respect that he went to a fucking rodeo and like made fun of our national anthem in front of the people that you least want to offend. Like, literally, I don't know how he survived. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have respect for it, for sure.
The physical comedy on top of the slapstick comedy on top of the satire is what sets this movie apart. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Borat. I know long-winded there, but like I love the Breakup, but it's hard to compare as a comedy.
Oh man. Well, this isn't a hard decision for me, but Borat.
Yeah, that's why I went hard where I went.
Yeah, Borat. Yeah. Look, what it does in this movie is it's unprecedented. I mean, it is essentially Sacha Baron Cohen in different instances, but like risking his safety to put together this mockumentary movie, because the subjects, Sacha Baron Cohen can present his humor as slapstick and lowbrow, but he is one of, if not the most intelligent actors working today. So well read that when he plays these characters, he has a way of eliciting humorous situations where you don't even realize you are being lampooned as the person across the
He's
table.
literally gotten major politicians and generals.
Rudy Giuliani.
So yeah.
It's ridiculous. And his character of Borat is fucking, I mean, I still prefer Ali G of his three characters. Yashikaba!
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, it was ballsy to do what he did. And it's one of those movies where like every time you rewatch, you're like, holy shit. Having said that, the Breakup, and I don't want to get too into detail here because I will be talking about a lot on future pods, but I think that it has two of probably the top 10 comedy quotes of all time. And that is at the bowling alley when Gary gets kicked off of the team because him and Brooke broke up. And he says, well, since I'm off the team, that you're barring my wrist guard. I'm gonna have to ask for my wrist guard back. And the guy hands it to him and goes, I hope your wrist snaps. Band of Brothers, rent it sometime. And then, of course, the other one, as Brian said, when he's playing PlayStation against the 12-year-old online, where he says, I think I'm going to figure out how to beat myself. One of the best lines in the movie. And there's several other great ones. The Jon Favreau line where he's like, no, I know, you're smart. Say it a little louder so the people in the back can hear you. He's like, no, I really don't want anything to happen to him. No, I know what you're saying. You don't know anything. So I'm going to have to go with the Breakup. It's a movie that it's tough because it's does its dramatic stuff with so much earnest and effort. I'm not saying it's well done, but it devotes so much of the film to the actual dramatic parts of their relationship that I totally agree with Cycly. There's a part where, as the audience, you're like, wait, this is kind of sad. Like,
yeah,
what's happening? Like, I thought Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau were acting ridiculous a second ago. Also, Brian, Kingpin is his brother.
Yeah,
Kingpin and Carter Verone. Kingpin and Carter Verone from Too Fast, Too Furious are Gary's two brothers in this movie. Pretty crazy. Two awesome villains. But The breakup gets my vote, and it will advance to face Forgetting Sarah Marshall in the next round. All right, that is the play-in round. Yeah, this is exhausting, but
someone's got to do it.
Someone had to do it. All right. I'll update the bracket, but in the description below, we'll have just the matchups. Guys, we're not going to do our Do You Even Lift Bro today, so let's do an abbreviated protein shake where we go around and talk about what is in our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. How about everybody does like one thing?
That sounds great. Yeah.
Perfect. Cycly, let's go to you first. What is something that you have watched lately that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I'll go off because I mentioned last week, I mentioned Severance. We get the season finale coming off this week, so I'll save my thoughts for that, seeing how that ends.
I think Nate Thurman is watching that, so next time you guys are both on, he can.
Yeah, that'd be good. Love Is Blind is over, so I'll save my thoughts for another time. I'll add. Here's what I'll talk about. I don't know why it's taken me so long to watch this film. I've just kept seeing this pop up all the time on Reddit, and again, satire type comedies. It's the Death of Stalin from 2017. And first of all, let me read you the cast. And I watched The Big Lebowski and watching Steve Buscemi. I was like, wait, it made me think of all those Reddit posts. And I was like, I need to go watch that. So I went and found it. So Steve Buscemi, Jason Isaacs, Simon Beale, Jeffrey Tambor, who I love.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great, fantastic.
A lot of dramatic actors right there.
This is very dramatic actors for a satire. And the list keeps going. But what I will say is, I don't know, have either of you watched it or heard of it?
I have not. Is it like Coen Brothers adjacent?
It's very yes, it is very Coen Brothers adjacent.
So like Rushmore or Election or something like that.
It's more so like what's it called? Burn After Reading.
Okay.
Like that.
Ooh, I like Burn After Reading.
Yeah, it's
is
very much.
Is it Wes Anderson-y at all or no?
No, it's more Coen Brothers than Wes Anderson, I would say. Like, I mean, there's definitely elements of like where Wes Anderson is obsessed with like shots, right, and color and like cinematography. But in terms of the historical nature of it, so here's the cool thing about it. It's very, from what I did a lot of reading after watching it, it's relatively realist, like historically accurate. Like obviously there's elements that are not historically accurate, but for a satire, I actually was expecting it just to be a play about the death of Stalin and like a theatrical ridiculousness of like his inner circle and how they reacted. It turned out there's historical things that were exaggerated or didn't happen. The movie itself is fantastic. I was cracking up, but also learning about that fucking era at that same time, which is such a like brilliant, like nice little touch of the film that like I feel like you don't get a lot of, right? Like sometimes you have like the Bravehearts, which is like way too far on one end. Like they've rewritten history. Amazing movie, like one of my favorites of all time, but like just not historical.
Not exactly how it happened.
Yeah, not exactly how it happened. Like doesn't mean it's not in my top 10. Oh, it's in my top 10. But spoilers.
Whoops.
But like this movie, like I literally like it was so fundamentally funny, but at the same time, like jaw-dropping in the sense of like, wow, this is actually because they were so scared of Stalin. They were so scared of the era. They were, even the inner circle were all wary of each other. So like the ridiculousness that they play in front of each other is hilariously like they're so dramatic in front of each other, and then they change on a dime. And the cast is so fantastic for it. Jason Isaacs steals every scene he's in.
As he does, yeah.
As he does. And the movie really sets the tone of like that era, like 1953 Soviet Union and what happened with Stalin. But like, I absolutely.
Does anyone in that cast play Stalin, or is he just like spoken about off?
No, Stalin is in the film. Like he's alive in the beginning of the film. And then this isn't spoilers, it's history. So like Stalin collapses and no one goes to check on him because they're so scared of Stalin. They think it's a test or something like that. Like they don't open the doors, but that's real. I looked it up. This is actually what happened. Like the guards heard a crash and they were so scared to go in there.
Yeah. Like if we barge in, he's just going to fucking scream at me.
He's going to kill us. Yeah. And so like the whole movie, it was just like it's an easy watch too, guys. Like it's like an hour 45, and
What'd you watch it on?
Pluto TV, it's free.
Okay.
Ooh, and there's built-in P breaks on Pluto TV.
There are built-in P breaks, and honestly, they're not bad. There's only like 3 of them. They're like 60 seconds. Like credit to Pluto TV. But I really recommend it. It's very a la Burn After Reading. It's very it's a cool if you like the history, and it is funny. I learned a lot, and this movie is severely underrated. When I went to the Reddit thread, everyone was saying the same thing. Like this movie is revered, and no one understands why like this didn't take off more. It is worth watching. Even if you don't think it's like amazing, it's still worth watching just on the runtime and the comedy.
I'm sold on the cast. I'm not as big on like Coen Brothers-esque humor as you are, but if Jason Isaacs is hamming it up and having fun, that's something I might have to watch.
It's not as severe as the Coen Brothers, so like that might help you, but it's like close adjacent.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And I can get access to Pluto TV, so that's great. Death of Stalin. All right, Banner, what's in your cup, or what have you seen lately?
All right. I've got a movie or a TV show. Which one do we want to do?
Yes.
Mention both.
Let's do. Okay, I'm just gonna mention the movie because I think we'll talk about it more later on in the year, and then we'll talk about the show. How to Train a Dragon, guys. I've never seen it before, but I saw the trailer for the new live action one that's coming out this year, and I was like, man, that looks fucking good. Guys, the cartoon or the animated version, phenomenal.
It's one of our favorites.
Yeah? It is.
It's Robin
so
Sparkles
fucking
and
good.
I love it.
We immediately went and watched the second one. Second one's just as good as the first one.
Did Baby Banner like it just as much as you guys?
Oh yeah, she loved it. She loved it. That's one that we'll be at. We'll be going to the theaters probably opening night or opening weekend for.
Oh yeah,
just great story.
Is this on Peacock? Is this DreamWorks?
It was, but we watched it on Netflix. But it did say leaving soon, so it may not be there anymore. Okay. So wait a week and it'll be back. It's usually how that works.
Yeah, this franchise. I've only heard good things about it. I've never really checked it out, but not only did it spawn, I think, 2 sequels, but also had an animated series, which it lasted
1 or 2 animated series, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of juice in this thing to squeeze, and you're the animated head out here, so you don't always give your stamp of approval to an animated movie. So if you like,
I think this is another. I think this is a one that the live action is actually going to translate really well.
Gerard Butler is in the live action, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is a great casting for the if you've seen it movie, it's perfect.
Yeah, I think he was like fan cast for so long that even when he was like officially cast in it, I was like, no, that's just the internet being the internet. And they're like, no, he's actually the guy that they hired.
For once, they got it right.
Is Jay Baruchel one of the voices in this?
Yeah, he's the main guy.
Okay, I don't mind him as a voice actor.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. You buy him a lot. It's good stuff. All right, show I'm going to talk about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Jeff, you already talked about this yet?
No, actually, I was going to talk about it tonight, but no, I'll just do it with you.
Perfect. We'll go into it, guys. This had no business being this good. You guys know how much I love the X-Men animated series and how great X-Men 97 was. This might be better.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely is as a standalone season of a show, right? X-Men 97, I think you have to have a little bit of background from the animated show for it to be as good as it is. This just hits the ground fucking running.
X-Men 97 is like a little more inside baseball, like you said. Like if you weren't like, you got to know the comics a little bit, and you got to know the original series to like really get the most out of it. Plus, it's just a little. I'll be honest. X-Men 97 is a little bit too heavy at times.
It is.
This walks that perfect. I feel like I'm reading a comic every week that it came out. I love that they. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm gonna sound like a fucking idiot. Didn't they drop 2 episodes every week? Or at least for the first couple.
They did it multiple times, yes.
The voice cast is amazing. We got Coleman Domingo as fucking Norman Osborn. lots of comic references. The only thing I wasn't a huge fan of, and I got over it, was the animation. I know they were going for like a little bit of like a more like brushstroke type thing. To me, though, it just looked cheap and like rushed. Especially when you compare it to like X-Men 97 or obviously What If, where it just looks beautiful on screen.
Yeah, I think they were going for a more like original Spider-Man that came out, back in the 60s, that kind of style. More or less paying homage to what they did back then, but
yeah,
it didn't bother me as much as it did you. And once you actually get into it, though, like, you're not worried about the animation. The story is so good.
Yeah, it was the least of my worries after 2 episodes. And the way that this first season finale ended, oh my God. A lot of times, Boehner, I get mad when a show like ends a season with just a bunch of teases for shit coming up. This one, though, I was just salivating, wanting more. I was like, I want to see every one of these storylines play out. I'm not.
Yeah, they had at least, five seasons they could pull from? It's just a matter of which one are you going to do.
And I love how they're acknowledging that he's in the MCU, and they've teased and even had a few characters show up briefly, especially some that I love. I won't spoil anything. But the show is in no way dependent on that. And it's really just like a trick that they pull out of their magic bag every once in a while. And the characters and Peter's relationships with them at his high school especially is what the show is focused on. It's not like leaning on the crutch of the MCU to keep itself propped up.
No,
which is great.
That is a strength of it. And like you said earlier, it walks that line of being heavy and not so great. There's one episode, if I remember correctly, it ends, and you're like, holy shit, did they just do that? And then it instead of powering through, it kind of lets up a little and it isn't quite as heavy. It's just so well done.
Yeah. So have we had a season? I'm assuming season 2 has been greenlit, right?
It has. I think it's in development. Again, I don't know that they were planning on a second season, so I don't know if they have a direction necessarily that they had in mind.
You got a lot of options.
Yeah. A lot less turmoil than X-Men 97, that's for sure. With the direction.
God, that shit was so fucking stupid. Nice. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. For mine, Cycle, I'm going to let you pick. Do you want my show or my movie?
Same thing I said to Banner. Mention both. And then how about mention both and then let me decide.
Okay. Well, the reason I had you pick both of these are things that I think you would be interested in for different reasons.
All right. Just give me the titles. And then I'll pick.
No, because that's like the tease,
Yeah, but then I can then that way I pick which one you talk about. I don't know.
The Traitors season 3 or the movie Companion.
Well, no, go to the Traitors. I'm gonna watch Companion. We'll talk about it together.
Okay, the Traitors season 3. Here's why Ronnie Cycly would love this. This is his life.
This is the theme.
It is the game Werewolf played with reality TV stars.
It's amazing, dude.
About 10 episodes.
Sold.
Yeah. So they put these 10 people from all different reality shows in this Scottish castle hosted by Brian and Mine's boy, Nightcrawler himself, Alan Cumming, who is you talk about you like a delicious whodunit. He is so over dramatizing everything with his Scottish accent. Hello, traitors. One of you is about to be murdered tonight. But who is it? So basically, Cycly, Peacock. You and the wife, you talk about trashy reality TV that's down your alley. You pop a bottle of wine, you'll crush 4 of these episodes tonight. Okay. So they put, I think it's like 18 people originally in the house. 3 of them are traitors. We as the audience know who they are. That's
the best part about this.
Yeah.
Wow.
The house doesn't know. And here's what happens every episode. The house goes on a mission all together to earn money that the winning team will get at the end of the show. There's the traitors and the faithful. Now, on these missions, people are doing various things with their own personal interests, whether they're a traitor or a faithful. At the end of the episode, 2 things happen. The traitors meet in this secret meeting. It's a
so
little
they know who each other are.
Correct. They are working together. They meet and they decide one of the faithful that they want to murder, meaning someone who's either onto them or someone who they just sometimes don't like. and that person is murdered. The next morning at breakfast, when everyone shows up, the murdered person is obviously not there.
Oh, but they
And-
show up one at a time.
Yes.
So
Oh
dramatic.
wow! So it's
So
okay.
speculation runs rampant. Then at the end of the night, they have a dinner called the Round Table, where everyone in the house votes on someone that they think is a traitor. That person is then kicked out of the house, and as they're leaving, they reveal if they are a traitor or if they are a faithful. So if the person is a faithful, everyone is pissed because they just eliminated one of their teammates. And if the person is a traitor, everyone freaks out because they guessed and figured out someone trying to kill people.
And there's 3 total traitors.
Yes, but
Yes.
there is a way sometimes during this season where like they can add an extra traitor, like they can recruit someone,
Oh shit!
which occasionally happens. But the point is, the traitors are like at each other's throats sometimes, deciding who to murder or how to go about it. And the faithful, it gets very paranoid, like who can they trust? Because obviously everyone in the house claims to be a faithful.
Oh, of course. So
Right,
I
as
love
you
Can you
know from
imagine
the-
if somebody was like, "No, I'm definitely a traitor. You should watch out for me."
Yeah, it's fucking wild.
Yeah,
So
I'm a traitor.
it's
Is
just
it-
a
you
fun
said it's the
show.
3rd season.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
I don't know
I've
why
never
we
heard of this.
So my wife is like
My wife.
people are talking about it on social media. My wife. People are talking about it on social media, so we have to watch the new season. But after we finished it, I was like, let's definitely go back and watch the first 2.
So I haven't seen the newest season, but I've seen the first 2.
Are they the same,
Yeah.
Brian?
Do what?
Banner,
Like-
are they the same like concept?
Oh yeah, it's the exact same concept.
I'm sure, like most reality shows, though, they have like little wrinkles they change each season. But the fact they're in a castle, the fact that people are being murdered, the fact that Alan Cumming is so over dramatic about it is what I have so much fun with. So the Traitors, it's on Peacock.
Delicious whodunit.
A delicious whodunit that takes place.
It's amazing.
And
And you can power
people are-
through them.
Oh yeah, multiple people are either murdered or exiled at the Round Table each episode. So it is fast moving. Unlike, I know it's Brian Mine's favorite reality show, but unlike Big Brother, where sometimes you go 3 episodes without anything really happening, it's kinetic. There's always something, people leaving or some huge twist happening in the Traitors.
Yeah. One thing when I first started watching, I was like, it's because it does start with like 20 people. And I'm like, this is way too many people to start with. But they start knocking people off real fast.
Yeah, I mean, at the minimum, you lose 2 per episode between the murder and the Round Table.
And there's
And you have to remember 3 of the people aren't competing because they're the traitors already.
Correct.
So there's more people there than are actually there.
and you said
that
it's
makes-
celebrity
Reality TV
reality.
stars.
reality TV. Okay,
So like people that have
but-
been on like other like Survivor and Big Brother and like other game shows
got it.
go on it. And
Yeah,
like
so this last
the
season, they really-
challenge and stuff like that.
They run the gamut. Yeah, it's like there's a WWE superstar, someone from Road Rules, Big Brother, Survivor, Real Housewives. They pretty much get people from everything. So you
If I
might not
don't know
recognize.
these people. Will I still enjoy it? Like, do I need to know these people?
I knew 2 of the 20 people, and it didn't matter at all. Yeah,
These
only
are
thing is-
professional. These are like professional reality TV show, game show people. They know what they're interesting people.
The one
Yeah.
thing that I'll say that does sort of play into that, but they explain it and it's very evident in this last season, is some of the people from like Big Brother or Survivor, if they played with other people on the show, they have like a pre-existing either like animosity or trust towards one another, which
Yeah.
really affects the way they play with them.
I'm intrigued. I'm in.
Yeah, and Cycle, you're someone who I know lives for the werewolf game, so I thought you might.
Yeah, I love that game. But you need to have a big group, and half the people or everyone needs to be drunk for that game.
I don't think they're drunk on the Traitors, but I could be wrong.
Not all. Not at, well, maybe at breakfast.
Sometimes, yeah, I don't know. They booze up at breakfast for sure. All right,
Let's start
That's it.
It's the most important meal.
it is.
It is.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. All right, guys, before we let the people go for episode 239, any closing thoughts? Cycly, let's start with you. You're a legal counsel. What kind of advice can you give the folks listening to the show?
I just want to give a congratulations to our boy Horns over here. Just had baby Horns, and we want to congratulate him. No sleep over here, still on the pod, but we love baby Horns. We're so glad she's here.
Thank you,
Congratulations,
guys. Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm super excited to be a dad.
man. But also, fucking get out of the left lane, you
For
sons of
real.
bitches.
It's
More
for passing.
importantly, learn how to
More
fucking
no.
drive.
No, it is. That
No,
actually
baby
is more
horns.
important. Thank you. She will come on the pod at some point and just say goo goo gaga. Banner, how about you?
Hey.
What do you want to share with the people?
Guys, let's make sure we're pulling over for those emergency vehicles. Okay, you see the lights, you hear the sirens. Let's get over. Let's not ride the wave of everybody getting over and you stay in front of the ambulance. Seen that recently. Let's not do that.
Yeah,
and like
that should not be a thing that people.
No, it shouldn't be, but it is. And look, I know that this isn't actually illegal, but it's just a dickhead thing to do. Don't tailgate the ambulance or the fire truck so that you can get in front of all the people that were pulled over. That's a dick thing to do too.
That's not illegal.
No, I don't think so.
Like drafting off an ambulance.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's disgusting.
I know Bro Force Squad Nation doesn't do that, but like tell your friends, okay?
It's really sad. All right, mine. So you guys know I've been talking about how when you post on your neighborhood or apartment social media pages, just don't be a dumbass. Let me read
good
you
ones lately.
Let me read you one that we got last Saturday. I think I sent this to Cycly. This is the post. Quote, this is at 10:49 p.m. Did anyone else just hear someone yelling from a van over in this area? At first, I thought it was a kid yelling for their dog, but the van was driving really fast down the residential road.
I don't even understand what are they hoping to get out of that?
What am I supposed to say?
Provided?
Yeah, I don't know what the question was.
And to make things even worse, or maybe just compound the issue, here's the first comment. Someone just said, quote, I saw her at Kroger, which is a grocery store. Like, what? We're not solving anyone's problems. Like, I don't understand what this should be like. My dog is missing, or just so you guys know, I saw a gas leak or something like, or garage sale. Like, I don't need. Did someone hear someone yell from a van? Like, no.
But even if someone says yes, like,
what do we
does
do?
This go? Where does
like?
This
How
go?
does my day change based on the response to that question?
And let's be honest, that's got to be a really loud yell for anybody else to hear it.
I guess.
Like,
these are the people that Cycling knows all about this from his old neighborhood, but like these are the people that like just sit at home, peek through their blinds all day, and then go become keyboard warriors after. It's a sad existence. And
those are my people.
These groups definitely have a value and a service. Like my brother-in-law's dog went missing, and we found her through some of these channels. Same with Nate Thurman's dog, but it's like posting when you hear someone talk loudly from a van is probably not the way to use it. So if you're at home, I know no one listening to this would make these egregious mistakes, but let's try to help your neighbors out. Just be better.
Cracks me up.
All right, for our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycly, and the mad scientist, Brian Banner, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking out our show. Comment below your thoughts on the 2000's Comedy Movie Madness Tournament. The second round will start next week. Shit got real tonight, but it's about to get even realer coming up soon. Follow us on Twitter.
It's already been brought.
It's already been. I just forgot that you watched Bring It On. Yeah. Follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. We're also on IG and Threads. Type in Bro Force Squad. 3 separate words on Letterboxd, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music. You'll find us there. And our website, broforcesquad.com, has this bracket posted. The Bros Top 100 Movies of All Time. Everything we've ever done in our squad blog. Until next time, we will see you in a van screaming at a kid. And we also just came from Kroger. How does that person know it's the same van? Like, were they yelling at Kroger also?
Well, because they said what color the van was that was yelling, right?
Let me check.
Only so many vans of that color, you know?
No, it just said, did anyone else just hear someone yelling from a van?
Well, see, that's their fault for not describing the van.
I feel like they're fucking with them, like, as every comment should.
The people
Yeah,
in the
man,
comments. So the good thing about the Ring app is you're totally anonymous.